Support for WYES is made possible by Mary Lou Kristovich in memory of her husband, William Kristovich.
Good evening, I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, spotlighting the New Orleans area's arts and entertainment scene. Seated at our table tonight, Gwen Tompkins, host of the radio program Music Inside Out, airing twice weekly on WWNO Radio. Hey, Miss Gwen.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Poppy Tooker, host of the radio program Louisiana Eats, also airing twice weekly on WWNO Radio. Hello.
Hi, Peg.
Hey there. And our artist, gallery owner, and musician, and so much more, George Schmidt. Good to see you, George.
Nice
Getting the
to be
George
here. Thank
update. We can't see him enough.
Well.
Okay. And Steppin Out theater critic Alan Smason of theatercriticism.com. Welcome, Mr. Alan. And later on, we're going to be visiting with Tulane Summer Lyric's artistic director, Michael McKelvey. And we have a performance by cast members of the Leonard Bernstein tribute this weekend. But first up, Poppy on a somber note.
Yeah, we have to start off with a little sad talk about Miss Ella Brennan, who passed away yesterday at the age of 92. What really strikes me about Ella is I don't believe there is another human who, for 7 decades, affected the hospitality industry in the way that she did. Liz Williams said to me today, well, you know, Ella invented hospitality as we know it today, and she really did, and she will be sadly missed. It was so wonderful last night that they didn't light the lights at Commander's. I thought that was a Broadway-style tribute,
it was.
wasn't it?
And when I certainly, I mean, we could go on, the whole show could be
We
that,
could.
and very worthwhile, of course, as always. But the mentoring, whether it's Emerald Lagasse, and here we have Emerald right here, or of course earlier Paul Prudhomme. So in so many ways she reached out, didn't she?
More than mentoring. For one thing, you know, everybody credits Paul Blanchet. It was really Ella and Owen who came up with the idea we have to use bananas, and they liked the way that Mom cooked them at home. So even Bananas Foster, we have Ella to thank for that. She said that she could tell there was a great chef present because she could see the magic in his hands. And anybody who would like to hear a little bit more of Ella in her own voice, we have a Louisiana Eats podcast that's an interview with Ella going up tonight. So everybody can listen to Miss Ella one last time. Now for some happy news. The Pythian Market opened up. We've all been waiting a long time, and it took a lot of work to get that incredible 110-year-old building into the remarkable condition that it is. You know, I really was not familiar with that amazing history at the Pythian Market. And of course, they have murals inside that reflect the incredible place that the Pythian held during the Jim Crow era.
And there's A.P. Turow and the woman who would become his wife.
Yes,
and,
it's
civil rights
beautiful in there.
activist, and-
It's beautiful in there. And all I can say is that if you don't know where to eat, go to the Pythian Market because you can eat anything there. First of all, surprising to me, 2 nearby neighborhood restaurants, 14 Parishes, the Jamaican restaurant, and Central City Barbecue have outposts there. And Central City Barbecue is experimenting with an espresso bar concept there called Roustabout Coffee. Food trucks finally are getting some bricks and mortar there with La Cocinita and this delicious Venezuelan arepas that Rachel and Benoit Angulo have become so famous for, Frenchies, grilled cheese and hand-cut fries, and fete-a-fete with Southern comfort food. Then there's a modern take on Vietnamese, you know, pho rito is something that is pho real. And there's poke bowls, rotisserie chicken, the Marabou wood-fired oven pizza, and Thousand Figs. they're going to open up a Little Fig there, and they're both coming in a couple of weeks. They're not there right now, but middle of June. Open Sunday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. And then once again this year, I'm the honorary chair of Dining Out for Life. You know, we have got Dining Out for Everything fundraisers these days. I'd like to point out that it was the No AIDS Task Force who created that model with Dining Out for Life. There are 50 restaurants participating. At least 20% of the proceeds or more for next Thursday, June 7th, that's Dine Out Day, goes to the No AIDS Task Force Crescent Care. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Toup South, Bistro Orleans, and the Country Club in the Bywater, who are donating 50% of the proceeds from Thursday's sales. And you can see a complete listing of the restaurants at Dining Out for Life. And then continuing right in that theme, Drag Queen Brunch, Sunday, June 10th, benefiting Crescent Care, another fundraiser for them, at Two Jacques Restaurant. 3 courses, bottomless mimosas, $60, 4 drag queens, Brittany Alexander, Madonna-thon, Lana O'Day, Laveau Contraire, and the mistress of ceremonies, the very famous Miss Kitty Fouché.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. I hope everybody will join me. You've never had such a good time. Trust me.
Thank you, Poppy. And we are experiencing this week, Miss Gwen, Birdfoot Festival and Rebirth coming up. Huh?
Absolutely, it's true. I mean, the Birdfoot Festival is something I look forward to every year. It's been going on for about 7 years now. It's a wonderful new layer to the classical music scene in New Orleans. And on Saturday night is the finale. It's the last event of this year's festival. And I'm going to be there, to be honest with you. I'd love it. It's at 7, there's going to be a concert that features some youth from the area, young musicians who've been practicing this whole past year to perform some of Haydn's music. And then at 8 o'clock at the, and this is all at the Jazz and Heritage Foundation Performance Center, you know, on North Rampart Street. And so the second event on Saturday night will be at 8 o'clock, and it's going to feature so many performers from all over the world, you know, from Hungary, from Canada, from Britain, obviously from the United States. And they're going to be performing this really interesting program called The Devil's Violin, which, of course, is just such a sexy title. I'm in, you know. And, you know, the violin has always been associated with the devil. At least it has been since I think the 16th century, I want to say. And I guess it's because it's such a fascinating and you know, I mean, thrilling instrument, maybe
Can
too
be fiery.
thrilling, exactly, for church-going folk of the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. You know? But anyway, so this event on Saturday night at 8 is going to feature some of the early 20th century performers composers who actually began modern music in classical. So we're talking about Ravel, we're talking about Enescu, you know, the wonderful Romanian artist. We're also talking about Stravinsky. So I think it's just going to be absolutely marvelous, you know. And you know, this is a time of year. It's quiet. The festivals are kind of have wound down. Actually, it's so hot outside. Nobody wants to go anywhere. So you can actually experience lots of great music if you are into maybe shaking your tail feather. You know what I mean? On Saturday night, there's always Rebirth. You know what I mean? The Rebirth Brass Band. They're going to be celebrating their 35th anniversary at Howlin' Wolf on Saturday night.
35 years.
35
Jeez.
years. I mean,
Okay.
can you imagine what these people have done for this city in terms of the joy that they've brought to New Orleans, you know? Through thick and thin, through fire and flood, you know? There's always been rebirth.
Now, I know you wanted to briefly mention one of our favorite writers, Mr.
Yes.
Jason Berry.
Yes, that's right. And that's for the folks who are interested in maybe staying home this weekend and maybe listening to some music. I was going to say Dr. Michael White's album, Tricentennial Rag, is out, of course. You might want to listen to that. And he is attached to this Jason Berry project, which is going to be a film that's coming out later on, hopefully before we all decide to give out our Christmas presents, or maybe, you know, maybe just after. But it's a film that's going to be on the jazz funerals of New Orleans as a lens, you know, I mean, through which we can actually look at the evolution of the city. And I think it's going to be marvelous. It's a project that aligns with Jason Berry's book, you know, City of a Million Dreams. Isn't that a great title?
Isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. And of course, they have a Kickstarter program going on. And so if you're interested in clicking for Kickstarter, then you might want to go and look for City of a Million Dreams film, and give it a few shekels.
Yeah, he's so bright, and so many wonderful books have come from Jason, that's for sure.
Absolutely. We've got 6 days.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And New Orleans Magazine's quiz queen, Julia Street, has a question for us. Last time, Mary Kay Barbet gave us the names of a statue honoring female Marines at Elks Place and its sculptor, my Marine, the sculptor Enrique Alferez. Now, tonight's question. What was the New Orleans-made landing craft used at D-Day? And who credited the craft's inventor with winning the war? Email your answers to steppinout@wys.org. Our prizes: a year's subscription to Louisiana Life magazine, a dish towel with the message, "Stay Tuna," from our friends at wearablevegetables.com, and a pair of free admission passes to either the Audubon Zoo, Aquarium of the Americas, or the Butterfly Garden and Insectarium. You can go to WYS.org for our online calendar to see our lineup of events, including a dance performance by Leif Anderson at the Marigny Opera House Sunday at 5, and a Chris Champagne show next Friday night at Cello's in Metairie. You can also link to our WYS YouTube channel to see our program. Now, George, we just haven't seen you in a while, and in terms of on camera, that is, and we wanted to just, check out what you got going with your you were so versatile in terms of your historical paintings, and you're doing something a little different. So let's go through all this. Okay, Julia Street, how long?
Oh, I've been down there, I would say about, my friend Jack Stewart offered me his attic. It's 630 Julia Street. It was 5,000 alcoholics in an 8-square block area, and now there's only one. Me. See, I was the bohemian that moved into the place and made it safer for the more timid classes that followed. I got to see the whole panoply.
Well, you're, of course, so well known for your historical paintings. Many of them are at the Intercontinental, but you've also done etchings of some of those. One of my favorites is Louis Armstrong as King of the Zulus,
Oh, yeah.
1949.
That was a part
That's
of
a
the
great
series
one.
I did about the history of Mardi Gras. I had...
I love this, and I have one of those. That's one of my pride
You
and
see,
joys.
that car is a 1949 Plymouth. That dates the event. It was in
Yes.
1940. I actually saw this when I was a kid.
Really?
I was standing next to my mother. She was a real Louis fan, and that's all we listened to. And she bent down, and there's this guy going past on a float, and he's dressed in red, and his arms are waved. She said, "See, Georgie, that's Louis Armstrong, right?"
And of course, that was one of her idols,
Well,
too.
I tell you what, in 1960, I guess it's 65, the Jazz Club had a concert with him at the Loyola Fieldhouse, and my mother was in charge of the ticket sales, and she says, "George, I can't go to the banquet, the breakfast that they're giving for him at the Royal Orleans. Would you like to go in my place?" So I got to go. And guess who I sat next to? Louis Armstrong.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was and so I've done several images, several paintings about Louis' life in New Orleans.
Well, and of course, being the versatile gentleman that you are, and also the good little Catholic boy, one of my other favorite, more recent painting is the All Saints painting, Sacra
Conversazione.
Okay.
I did that when the Saints won the Super Bowl.
These are all religious figures
that are
who
associated
notable
with-
New
yeah.
Orleanians, huh?
See, there's Father Silos, Henriette DeLille, Mother Cabrini, and Mother Drexel.
I love
And
that.
you see the Pootie holding up the map of the city.
And my understanding is that painting is available.
Oh, it's
but they're
all
also,
available, yes, of course.
But there are also etchings.
As
that
an
you did of
etching,
that
too,
one.
yes.
And, everybody's got a tricentennial thing going. So you have a fairly new painting of Iberville, huh?
Yeah, I had done, years ago, I did a picture for the Louisiana Land
at
Exploration
this.
Company of
This is-
Bienville. Well, I figured this time I'll do Iberville, his older brother. And this is actually called Iberville in Biloxi. Iberville was trying to find the great river that had been talked about by LaSalle. And he was in Biloxi. I think they thought that Biloxi Bay was the mouth of the river. Well, it wasn't, and to his disappointment. And suddenly a group of Indians appeared on the beach, and he stopped them and he said, "Listen, Do you know where there's a great river around here? The entrance is on the Indians. Oh yeah, we just came from there. Would you like to go? So they had nothing to do. They were hunter-gatherers. So they said, yeah, come on. So they drove, they rode up to the Mississippi Sound, and there was the river. Well, the thing is, in those days, it was blocked by mud palisades. So Iberville, so how do you get around it? And they said, oh, it's easy. It's easy. You go through the lakes. You see, they went through Lake Bond. He named that day after Lake Bond was named after the Minister of Marine son. Then they get into Pontchartrain, named after the Minister of Marine. Then he takes him up, the Indians took him up a bayou, which you call Bayou St. John because it was St. John's Day. Then they walked across, which is now Bayou Road and Grand Route St. John, all the way to the river. And
there you go.
And Iberville said, well, gee, isn't that fabulous? But how do you get up the river? And they said, oh, it's easy, it's easy. You just take your boat and you go along the bank, and there's no current. So they rode all the way up to what's now Gonzales, and there was a bayou that took them across to another lake, Lake Maurepas, which is the other Minister of Marine son.
Well, as much as I could listen to you all night here, just one last thing to say that you're also embarking on a little bit of a different abstract form too. You've got these paintings that are of flowers, so
Yeah,
it's a different kind of George Schmidt as well too.
Well, I was taught by an abstractionist, Pat Trevino, a really great painter, great teacher. And so he said, George, it's all
Look
abstract.
at this. This is all.
That's how you do it.
Totally different.
You can't not do it any other way. And so I've kind of had it in my system. And just like a couple of years ago, that sort of seeped out. If you know what I'm getting at.
There you go. Well, go and visit George, 626 Julia.
I'll be
a
waiting.
good time. A good time will be had by
Oh, yes. I have prices to fit every pocketbook.
Absolutely.
Almost every pocketbook.
Thank you, George. And now for something completely different. 2018 marks the 100th birthday of Broadway and classical music legend Leonard Bernstein. And Tulane is celebrating with a tribute. Earlier today, Tulane Summer Lyric Theater's artistic director, Michael McKelvey, visited our studio with cast members Amelia Jacquet, Emily Bagwell, Renelle Taylor, and Aaron Rickard. Michael, this season you're adding Lagniappe with Tulane Summer Lyric at the top with this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going to open with a tribute to Leonard Bernstein, which that's happening all throughout the United States right now. So it's an entire Bernstein at 100 celebration. We're doing our own this coming Saturday and Sunday. We have 60 performers, an orchestra of 20 made up of LPO members. It's quite an event.
Now, why isn't it Bernstein?
It's because Mr. Bernstein played on a Steinway, and that's how he reminded us of it. So.
Yes, that's how he did. Now, what next few months? Okay, you're also promoting, of course, The Tortoise and the Hare.
Yes, last season we started a program called the Story Road Project, which is Summer Lyric's new outreach program. So we're doing an entire production just for kids, and that opens this Thursday. And it's a new musical based on Tortoise and the Hare, and it's written by Alan Robertson, who is known to PBS audiences from the Biscuit Brothers. And then we launch into the Summer Lyric season.
It is always amazing to me how you do these things so quickly. 3 full-scale musicals in the course of the summer. But you're kicking off with My Fair Lady. Who's going to be Henry Higgins?
Henry Higgins is Chris Carey, who is a favorite of our audiences, and Sean Patterson is playing Colonel Pickering, and Bob Eads is in there as Doolittle. And then we have a newcomer to Summer Lyric named Jackie Vanderbeck, and she's terrific.
All right, and then I am so looking forward to, and I hate to admit it, but I've never seen Ragtime.
And a lot of people haven't, and it shocked me when I took over as the artistic director of SLT. We'd never done it, and it's considered one of the best scores of the past 50 years, and that's why we're doing it. And a friend of mine's coming down to play Coalhouse Walker. He's in a little show called Hamilton. Jay Quinton Johnson is coming in to play Coalhouse for us, and and Leslie Castay is playing Mother, and Kevin Murphy is playing Tate.
So you scored a coup, though, with Newsies, huh?
Yeah, so I had a bunch of friends of mine, and I said, we really want the rights to this, and they were able to give Summer Lyric the first rights in the area to do Newsies.
Okay, now what are we hearing tonight from
Today
Bernstein?
we're hearing You Got Me from On the Town. by Mr. Bernstein.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Penny.
Let's begin.
I'm eager to share my love and devotion. It's deep as the ocean. I've plenty to spare, and since it's so ample, I'll throw you a sample. I will fix you up on the spot, so forget the things you have not. Can't you see, kid, what a very rare treasure you've got? You got me, baby, you got me. You got my affection, baby, and my sympathy. You got my whole muscular equipment from A to C, and it's free, baby. It's all free. It's all free. It's all free. It's all free.
You got me, baby, you got me. You got my enthusiasm on the land and sea. Whoop, whoop, whoop! You got my whole knack of getting ladies. It can't be beat, and it's free, baby. It's all free.
It's all free.
It's all free. It's all free. Come on, let's dance.
Yeah, let's finish it off. You got me, baby, you got me.
You got a date with Lucy Schmealer, girl of mystery.
Mystery,
You got her whole reservoir of passion to fill your need, and it's free, baby, without fee. Baby, can't you see? Baby, it's all free.
you got me.
You got she, you got we.
A reminder that performances of Bernstein at 100 will be tomorrow night and Sunday afternoon at Tulane's Dixon Hall. Visit their website to purchase tickets. And now, Alan.
Well, up on Cripple Creek, now running at the First Unitarian Church on Claiborne and Jefferson, is Sueño, which means dream in Spanish. It's based on a work from 17th century artist Calderón de la Barca, but it was updated in 1999 by Jose Rivera. Sueño is a dark dream in which a king, Basilio, that's played by Andrew Vaught, is foretold to have had a son who will grow into a tyrant. That's Segismundo. Segismundo is apparently given sort of a bad prophecy there because in order to stop that prophecy from going into fruition, he has his son imprisoned and literally kept in the dark until he achieves young manhood. Segismundo meets Rosaura, played by Devon Tyler. She's a woman warrior, as it were. She turns out to also be his love interest eventually, and her sidekick Claren, played by comedic foil Ian Hawke. Jessica Lozano plays Estrella, who's attracted to Gismundo's cousin and his rival. That would be Astrolfo, played by Raheem Glassby, who's on there as well. There are a number of sword fights, and of course, because this is Cripple Creek, they don't use swords. Of course, they use round sticks to substitute. And their shout-outs to Kevin Murphy and Nicole Boyd Buckles for their excellent fight choreography and amazingly timed choreography. Sueño asked the bigger question, though, can love be returned after being treated in such a hateful manner? Mark Anthony Thomas plays Segismundo's captor who suffers when he's eventually freed. And this, of course, is Cripple Creek's last production as founder Andrew Vaught leaves for a new teaching position in Arkansas. And Emily Whelan, who directed this piece, will leave for the San Francisco-Oakland area. And, of course, we'll miss them both. It's playing now at First Unitarian, but it's also slated to play for free at DCI Prison, Bridge House, Grace House, and the steps of City Hall. And, again, I really give high marks to this production. Again, you can pick up a book from there. there if you want to kind of help them on their way. Original music by Brian Coogan and costumes by Ellen Bull. That's Sueño through June the 10th. Now, great news for Southern Rep. They have announced their season for 2019 through 20, if you will. It's a piece that closed on Broadway to open up, and again, something I can only marvel at that they got this too, because this is the regional premiere. It's A Doll's House Part 2 by Lucas Nath. And again, those of you who saw it on Broadway know what you're in for. There's really wonderful performances that were in that particular play. Mandatory Merriment in December will feature holiday music with Alan Payne and Leslie Castay. There'll be a long carnival season, so the Wolves will be playing in January. It's basically a sexually charged setting of high school soccer players. Azul, the world premiere by playwright in residence Christina Quintana. That plays in March and April. And then finally, Troy Bechet is going to be doing something I can't wait to see. This is a play in which she'll also star. It's called Flowers for Hallie. It's a tribute to our own Mahalia Jackson and the world of gospel music. Again, that's the Southern Rep main stage. You can check them out at southernrep.com. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Shakespeare Festival is getting ready to take the wraps off of one of the Bard's best-known works, but it's a work that's never been performed here. Believe it or not, I'm talking about All's Well That Ends Well, and it's directed by Amy Holtkamp. It stars A.J. Allegra, Alex Ates, who's come back from his position in Alabama, where he's in school, Leanne Pattison, Silas Cooper, Monica Cooper, and Shelley Johnson, just to name a few. Again, All's Well That Ends Well, weekends through June the 17th. Meanwhile, a group that has been put together, if you will, cobbled together, the Dazzle Dolls, will be holding court at the Vintage Arts Center. That's a new venue on Magazine Street. Tickets are still available for Sunday's matinee at 2:30 p.m. I want to let everybody know the Dazzle Dolls are veteran performers Courtney Anderson and Micah DeSonia, who we know from so many works at either the World War II Museum or with JPAS, along with Katie Bellarino. They'll be singing songs of divas through the decades. So I can't wait for that. That's, again, $20. The matinee's at 2:30 p.m. on Magazine Street. Again, you can go through eventbrite.com. And last but by no means least, the National World War II Museum is holding all of their auditions on the 9th and 10th of Saturday and Sunday of next week. That's the Stage Door Idols, the Dames at Sea, Pump Boys and Dinettes, Victory Bells. If you want to make an appointment with Erica, there's the information there, and you can go there.
Thank you. Now, time for our picks of the week. Gwen.
Okay, this is the time to actually go and see some local up-and-coming musicians. I'm going to suggest Robin Barnes, who's a wonderful jazz singer. She performs over at the Montleon. She'll be there at 9:30 on Tuesday. And again at the Montleon on at 5 o'clock on Friday.
Thank you, Poppy.
It's Oyster Festival weekend, so head on down to Waldenburg Park and slurp some up.
Okay, George. Any other paintings?
Well, actually, we haven't, it's first Saturday of the month. There'll be a walk around on Saturday for all the galleries.
Night, right? Okay, great.
Two events for the Nola Nixets. They're having a dance clinic on Saturday, June the 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's at the Hilton Riverside. And then on Sunday, June the 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., they're going to have auditions to become a Nixet. And I want to let everybody know, Jean Genet, who's this absurdist French playwright, he did The Maids, in which these two maids try to kill their matron, if you will, at the Fortress of Lushington, 2215 Burgundy Street, or Burgundy Street, I should say.
Okay. And I cannot recommend highly enough, it's the last weekend all the way, the LBJ and Dr. Martin Luther King play at Southern Rep at the Marquette Hall. A wonderful theater. And my other picks, this year's Symphony Book Fair is tomorrow and this Sunday at the UNO Lakefront Arena. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. there'll be a food tasting, and Tom Fitzmaurice will be signing his new expanded edition of Tom Fitzmaurice's New Orleans food book at Octavia Books on Octavia Street. Looking ahead, just a reminder that the Ancient Order of Hibernians live and silent charity auction will be next Friday at the St. Dominic's School Gym on Harrison Avenue. Among the donation highlights, a hat personally made and designed for you by Yvonne LaFleur, a Joe Namath signed jersey, and a condo stay in Florida, and many other things. Proceeds from the auction go to their many local charities. Also, special thanks to Hall Piano for recently helping us move our baby grand. Thank you all very much. You all are grand and good babies, too. Good night.